Welcome, everyone. Let's talk about it. Addiction and Recovery. Your host, Alejandro Hernandez. We're going to discuss something I think super important in addiction and recovery. And we're going to discuss honesty. Some people may be aware, some people may not, but addiction is all about lying. And if we're going to make these changes in our lives, it's important that we learn how to practice, how to be honest. For some of us, it's a little difficult because that's all we know. That's all we've done. All we've done is lie, 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 lie. We lied to ourselves. We lied to the people we loved. You know what I mean? We started to believe our lies. We continue stuck in that cycle. And it's hard to break out sometimes. So it's important that we understand and that we do the work to discover when did it start? How did it start? Why did it start? Nobody's born lying. That's a learned behavior. And people lie for many different reasons. I know me, myself, I lied to look good. I lied to not experience pain. I lied to win other people's approval. You know what I mean? But in the end of it all, it wasn't beneficial. It was actually harmful, hurtful. It made my spirit suffer. It made me look, I would say, crazy sometimes. I would say fake. You know what I mean? And once I gave myself an honest chance to recover, I had to change that behavior. And it took a while, but it's still in practice. I try to practice honesty as best I can. Sometimes situations come up that I say, oh, should I lie here? Should I say the truth? You know what I mean? And eventually I wind up telling the truth, and sometimes the results, I like them, sometimes I don't, but that's just the way it is. I don't know for anybody else, but for me, I learned how to lie at a very early age. And I could recall and remember my mother. Trying to explain to the landlord, when we lived on the Lower East Side of Manhattan, on 5th Street and Avenue C. Trying to explain to the landlord why she didn't have the rent. And I knew she was lying, because I knew why she didn't have the money. And I proceeded to interfere into that conversation. And I said, no, that's not true. And the next thing I felt was my mom's backhand come across my lip. And it busted my lip. And it hurt. And I was shocked. And I was scared. And I shut up. And I got out of the conversation. And I went to my room. And I cried, and I cried, and I cried. Because I couldn't understand why at that age. Why would she hit me? Why would she hurt me like that? I mean, I know she might have not seen it or thought of it as hurting me. She could have thought about it as teaching me a lesson. Because, my culture, and at that time, children did not get into adult conversation. That was a no-no, and it was a rule. I guess cultural rule. And some people continue to practice that. Children don't get into adults conversation, and sometimes that hurts. Well, at least it hurt me. And then what happened to me was, in my mind, I adopted this idea, right, that telling the truth hurts. Right? You physically get hurt for that. So don't say the truth no more. Don't tell the truth. And then I learned how to lie. And I remember the first time I lied, I got away with it. And I didn't experience any negative consequences. And since then, in my mind, in my distorted perception, my distorted thinking, and my screwed up mind, I thought that lying was beneficial. And I lied to myself for years. I lied about the fact that I like to get high. I lied to myself about who I am. I lied to myself about what I do, what I didn't do. And I remember skipping school for 30 days because I wanted to help my aunt as she was pregnant. And I love her to death. And I love my aunt to death. And she was pregnant, and she was having my cousin, and I skipped the entire month. I didn't go to school for 30 days, and I kept taking the mailbox key and going down to the mailbox and opening it and taking all the letters that were coming from school, the absentee notices that they were sending to my house, and taking them out. My mom never knew, and my mom wasn't aware that I was skipping school for 30 days and that I was hanging out with my aunt to keep her company, while she was getting ready to give birth. My aunt questioned it, and I told her, that I go to a special school, and I don't have to go every day. And all I have to do is check in, and then I can go home, which was a lie. But I had to lie to everybody in that situation so that I could get away with what I wanted to get away with, And looking at it now, it caused a lot of anger, resentment, frustration, confusion. It's not easy staying on top of all these lies. But when I started my process of recovery 21 years ago, I had to learn how to get honest. And the first truth that I needed to tell myself was that I was an addict. I mean that I was a obsessive, compulsive, and self-centered individual, and I didn't know how to live. And I remember, and I was sitting in a prison cell, paying for a contempt of court charge for refusing to pay child support, because at that time, getting high, using substance, escaping, was more important than me taking care of my son. And I remember the doors slamming behind me, and I was faced with this dilemma. Alex, you can continue to get high for the next 20-somewhat years and keep coming in and out of jail for not paying child support, or you could do something different, or you could change your life. Stop using, do something different. Now, I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't even know what recovery was. All I knew was that I didn't want to continue to live the way I was living. I didn't want to continue to come in and out of jail for the next, so many years, because I didn't have the courage to take care of my responsibility. And I remember getting on my knees for the first time ever, right? And you believe in whichever God you believe in, right? That's your business. But I got in touch with, I guess, the God of my understanding at that time. And I prayed and I said, God, look, please teach me how to live. I know how to survive. I know how to do that. I've been doing that since the age of 13. I don't know how to live. Please show me. Right? And then I started making the necessary changes, right, to get better. I started telling myself the truth. And, sometimes the truth was painful, but it was the truth. And there's a sense of freedom that I felt. I felt free when I say, yes, that's who I am. That's what I did. That's fucked up. You're wrong. I accept responsibility. Let's move on. I don't have to continue to let this to hurt me. I don't need to continue to let this lie dictate how I live my life. So, in recovery, the first truth or the first lie I had to confront was that I liked getting high. And I didn't like getting high. I enjoyed the euphoric feeling, the pleasurable feeling that escaping gave me. Like, I enjoyed not having to have to do anything. I enjoyed that. And go to La La Land, fantasize about how beautiful things are going to be, And it was only while I was under the influence of a substance. But it was not actually happening. And I really wasn't living like that. I was living a fantasy. And I had to tell myself the truth. You like the pleasure. You don't like getting high. Because at the end of the runs, and I've had several, the end result was always the same. I felt miserable. I didn't like myself. I was scared. I pretended to be somebody I wasn't. It didn't really lead to anything positive. I mean, and I didn't like myself after the run. And then I tried it again. Then I go get clean, make many promises. Yeah, this time's going to be different. I'm going to do things differently this time. And that never happened. It never happened until I gave myself an honest chance to recover. When I gave myself an honest chance to recover, things started changing. They started changing slowly, not right away. And slowly but surely, things started changing, and I started feeling better about myself, and I started feeling well, and I started facing some of the problems in my life, and I started trying to fix me and understand. And understand, who are you? Alejandro, who are you? What is it that you really like in life? What is it that you really enjoy in life? What do you want to do? Right? And slowly but surely, with the help of some friends, I started to do the things that they were doing. Right? I was getting information. Right? I was obtaining information about the type of person that I believe I was. And slowly but surely, I started to make these changes, and life did get better. But it was slow. But I had to tell myself the truth all the time, and there were times where I wanted to tell the truth, but I couldn't, so I kept it. I omitted it, which is still lying. Right? But like I said, it's practice. It takes practice. Right? And then slowly but surely, I continue now. I practice more honesty than I do lying. And I'm not going to tell you I don't lie, because I do. Sometimes, I have feelings for someone. And I wouldn't tell that person because I don't know how they're going to perceive it, which is fear. I don't know if they're going to be okay with that, or if they're going to reject me. So I don't say nothing to them, and I just go into fantasy land, and fantasize about what kind of relationship I would like to have with that person. Right? And I'm getting better, because I am still learning how to be courageous. I'm learning how to be assertive. I'm learning how to be compassionate, considerate. I'm learning all these good qualities, and I'm putting them into practice, and yet, I still fear things, and I'm glad for the ability to learn, because I was doing some research, and every person has 7 basic human emotions. The problem for some of us, or the problem for me, was that I never knew how to express them. I never knew how to address them. I never knew how to deal with them. I learned how to escape. If I felt scared, escape. If I felt angry, escape. Right? If I felt happy, escape. If I felt confused, escape. Yeah, so I learned how to do that, and that's what I practiced. And now I know it wasn't beneficial. I mean, but life is getting better. I'm getting better. And that's the whole thing about the process of recovery. Now, I'm fully aware, okay, that I'm never going to be perfect. That's not what recovery is. It's not about being perfect. I'm still going to make mistakes. I'm still most likely going to lie. I'm still going to make some poor decisions, right? But I've learned how to now take responsibility for that. I mean, and look at it, change it, right? And keep moving and move on. Right? I'm not staying stuck. I refuse to stay stuck. I refuse to continue to lie to myself. I don't want to do that because it hurts. I mean, and it's tiring. Lying to yourself and then lying on top of that lie and then lying to lie to lie. Like it's overwhelming and exhausting. So I'd rather just be honest, you know what I mean? Now, I don't have to be honest straight up and say, oh, this is what I am, and I don't do that. But if somebody asks me something, be honest. All right? If somebody wants to know, if I think they should know, right? Because not everything is for everybody. But if I think that they should know, then I tell them the truth. You know what I mean? If they ask me, what do you think? And I tell them the truth and they don't like it, that's not on me. That's on them. Maybe you don't want to ask what you think or what I think. If you want honesty, Life is beautiful. It's confusing, like the weather. I look at life like the weather. Some days it's sunny, some days it's cold, some days it's warm, some days it's chilly, some days it's raining. Like I got to get dressed appropriately to deal with the weather of the day. I mean, same thing with life. I got to be ready to deal appropriately with life circumstances because they're going to happen. I have no control over that. But how I react to those circumstances is totally up to me. Sometimes I'll do well, sometimes I won't, but that's just part of life. That doesn't mean that I'm a bad person. It doesn't mean that I'm a good person. It just means I'm learning how to live. Honestly. Thank you. Please do me a favor if you enjoyed this video. Do me a favor. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, turn on your notification so I can continue to make this content and talk to you about addiction and recovery. Let's talk about it. Addiction and recovery. See you next week.